So, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause. Yeah, let's have a good round of applause. That's right. I've actually got some good news for you. So, apparently, the Supreme Court just ruled that members of the Christian faith can basically nationwide reject LGBTQ curriculum in schools for their kids. Now, I know what you're saying. Wait, that was the thing? Yes. Yeah, it was in question where religious families had to be subjected to LGBTQ curriculum, which is insane. However, it's a win because the court came out and said, no, these people on the basis of their religion can choose not to subject them to this degenerate left-wing filth. Great.
Ask about this books case, as well as I welcome into the conversation Phil Holloway, former assistant district attorney. So, Jonathan, I'll come to you first on that. And Phil, thank you so much for being with me. And then I'll come to you next. What implications wider than this children's books that could go against a family's faith, which I was shocked it even got to the Supreme Court, because Shannon Bream just reported how many people were against having those books for their kids anyway. But is there a wider look, if you can, Jonathan, at what that really means across the country?
This is enormously important for many of us who have been waiting for a robust opinion in favor of parental rights. This gets us pretty far along that road. The court here really came in on the side of these parents. These parents did an extraordinary task here in fighting off the school district in this case. But the case is important because the court is saying you can't just make parents and their kids your captive audience. And many of us were shocked when Justice Jackson in oral argument said, well, just take your kids out of school. A lot of parents don't have that option. They don't have the money to send kids to private school.
Here's a better option. How about you keep your disgusting left-wing cult filth out of public education? You know, call me crazy, but I think that would probably be the most logical thing to do. Teach kids the basics of reading, writing, arithmetic. Yeah, teach kids a trade. Teach kids math. There should not be children's books that have to do with LGBTQ. I mean, of course, on some level, you want to have books like that in the eventuality that there's a parent. They can't really explain this stuff, so they want a kid's book and all that. Fine, whatever. If you want to do that from the comfort of your own home, it's disgusting, it's wrong, but whatever. But the moment that you take that shit outside and try to introduce it to other people's kids, I think that should be a crime. You are trying to introduce sexually explicit fetish material to kids. Because that is what the LGBTQ is. It's a sexual alternative lifestyle movement. And that should have nothing to do with children. So keep these freaks away from the kids.
To send them to a school where that undermines the religious and moral teachings. Now they have the Supreme Court on their side and they can opt out. And I think it's an extraordinary victory for parental rights.
Yeah, and you know, in my opinion, it would take the entire nation agreeing upon something that we typically see in Republican-led states and municipalities, and that's school choice. I mean, they would have to then take and match some of the money, which we've seen in a few red states, match that money so parents can use that. Because you're right, not everybody has the money to send their child to a special and/or private school. Phil, I introduced you. You're part of the conversation. My question is about these books. What about the topics themselves? Does this actually extend out to, if those conflict with a parent's faith, can they opt out of the conversation and not just the books?
Yeah, I think so. Look, parents, Harris, are in charge of their kids' education, not the schools. It's the parents that get to make parental decision, not the government, and certainly not the schools. What this does is it squarely reinforces this basic notion that seems like we've always known, but in recent past, it's just become a clouded issue. Schools are for the purpose of educating children so that they can go out into the world with the skills that they need to be productive members of society. Schools do not exist to politically indoctrinate children. Schools do not exist to reinforce or to establish anything related to, culture wars or the current culture consensus or views of the day. So this is a very important ruling. I think the Supreme Court today has done a great service to American democracy, to our American way of life, to all things related to how courts work. On the injunction thing, courts are not supposed to substitute their judgment for that of the chief executive, even if they personally disagree with it. That's not their job, but that's what these rogue judges have been doing. They have been supplementing, or I guess implementing their will versus that of the president of the United States, because they think that they can conduct oversight. So on balance, I think this is a great day for America.
Yeah.
True.
Well, look, it is garnering a pop-up news conference from the President of the United States, and we are awaiting him. Jonathan Turley and Phil Holloway, thank you for joining the conversation. We keep you along with our White House reporters.
That's awesome. That's tremendous, tremendous news.
Normally on a Friday, the
Donald
Everglades would be so quiet, but right now the hills are alive with the sound of construction. Joining us
Alligator
right now
Alcatraz.
is Governor Ron
That's
DeSantis
funny.
here in the great state of Florida. You came up with this idea in the last couple of weeks, right? For Alcatraz or Alligator.
So, yeah, Donald Trump has had some major wins from the Supreme Court about
This morning, the
judicial
Supreme Court
overreach. But I want to see. I want to see what the what our great leader has to say about. Let's see here. Trump LGBTQ school. Let me see if he said something. Yeah, I don't see it. Anyway, if I find the clip from Trump. Oh.
The Trump administration.
Oh boy, I don't know if this is true. This seems like AI.
Is shutting down an LGBTQ suicide prevention hotline, even though we know that LGBTQ youth are 4 times more likely to contemplate suicide, and that hotline goes away in 30 days, a move the Trevor Project says is devastating.
By the way, the Trevor Project is absolutely disgusting and horrible. Absolutely abominable. But it seems like the tide is turning. It seems like things are shifting, and I think that's a positive direction. I make no apologies on this channel. I've said it numerous times. I don't support the LGBT community. I know it's the popular buzz phrase to just put out there, and people who don't support it are looked at kind of weird by online content creators, as though these freaks in this space are any sort of moral arbiter of anything. These people stab their friends in the back at a moment's notice. These people are on, either drugs or alcohol. They're degenerate. They're stupid. They think that nuisance streaming is a valid and productive form of content. In many cases, they collab with some of the worst of the worst. I've heard that people like Ludwig are just plastic and fake and disingenuous and gross, but wants to put out this perception of virtue on the internet. I mean, I'm just saying, the people who support the LGBT community, there's obviously something else there that's wrong with them that they're trying to compensate for. That's all I'm saying. But this is a major win, giving parents more rights, more freedom to fight back against this pervasive, disgusting cult. And what I say very often is people who are in the LGBTQ sphere, they are gay or lesbian or trans. I've had furries reach out to me and they say, look, I'm part of this group, but I'm not like them. Like, do you still hate me? Do you still, you know? And my answer to them is very simple. Well, no, I don't hate you. If you're somebody that recognizes that evil is evil and you're against this type of behavior, but you have to understand, not all Nazis were bad people, but we look at the group as a whole and we say, yeah, we kind of don't want to bring that group back. We don't want that group being able to, create more Hitler Youth. While there could have been Nazis, and there were Nazis that helped Jews. I mean, it's, there's a whole movie about it. Oscar Schindler, Schindler's List. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we're just going to not talk about the evils of this particular group. So I think that while there are individuals who are great and go, oh, I love your content, I love your channel, and are pretty based, the fact is that your group is your group. You've made a choice to become part of the LGBT community. And unfortunately for you, and unfortunately for me, this group seems hell-bent on left-wing orthodoxy that prioritizes going after kids and peddling some of the most depraved, evil shit in the world. And if you're on my side with that, you want to get rid of that, great. But I'm not going to pull back from what I'm saying because it may hurt somebody's feelings. Even though you may not be the intended person, that's just the reality of what I'm doing and content creation. But understand, no, I don't hate you. I hate the behavior. I hate the sin, not the sinner. There are only a few examples of that where I think that you can hate the sinner and the sin. One of them being Hassan Piker. But, we're taught to be forgiving, but some people are just pure evil and are of benefit to absolutely no one. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of good news to spread around. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Oh, one thing I want to point out. Let's see, what are we at in terms of kick? What are we currently at right now?
Is it like a full biblical black?
Okay, no, I didn't mean to click that. Oh gosh, I don't want to watch the stream. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look. We're at 241. I know this isn't going to be very interesting to anyone else besides me, but I got approved. I got approved for subscriptions. Hey, I'll take it. Yeah, there was a threshold that we had to meet, and we met it, and now I am approved for subscriptions. I think that's pretty cool. Nice, moving on upwards and onwards. I don't really think I'm gonna utilize that feature very much, but it's there if you for whatever reason were like, yeah, I've got like $1 or $2, or I don't know how much it costs, to be honest. Yeah, I got a couple bucks. I want to give it to this guy. I'd be more than honored for you to be my first. You see that? Gift 1 sub to take first. I tell you, it's a pretty easy bar on my channel. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing it if you like my content. If you don't, leave me a nasty message in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to laugh at you. And if it's ridiculous enough, may pull you up and make fun of you so everyone can join in on the fun. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, round of applause. Yeah, getting LGBTQ books out of school. Love to see it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. See you next time.